Welcome to the Verdin Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin. Got my guy G Sports in here with me. G, how you feeling, man?
Another day, another dollar. Was good with it.
Got some news for you. LSU hired an athletic director. Got a trade from the Saints. Come on, man. It just keeps getting worse for New Orleans. Got college football playoff rankings. And apparently, G, some LSU fans think they know who the next head coach will be. We might have to damper their Wednesday morning, unfortunately. Let's start off with the top agenda piece. Athletic Director Verge Osbury. We removed the interim title. You just make him full time right now. I like this. It's a good call. Obviously, we talked about it for a while. He's been here for decades. He understands the culture. He's a good fit. And it's also, I feel like it's the alignment aspect. And you seeing people tweet this word all the time, and it could be something that doesn't hold a lot of value, a lot of meaning, but the fact that everybody has the common goal, athletics, the president focused on athletics, athletic director obviously focused on getting LSU football back to the promised land. If you can bring in a head coach that kind of has that same focus and the same values and everybody's on the same page, I could imagine they make the hire and it's a home run. Now, naturally, I don't think this guarantees success. Obviously, you saw Scott Woolward have a rough patch. I mean, you got a couple of national championships, but just being an LSU fan and being all on board doesn't, it's not going to make the job for you. Then there's obviously some new things that popped up this morning. The Title IX involvement with the Les Miles era. Um, from what I gathered, the research I did, they're saying he failed to report something that he was authorized or mandated to report. And now people asked the president, Wade Roos, about it this morning, who was also named on Tuesday. I forgot to add. He said, I'll remove the interim title, then we'll assess the situation. I can't make a very good decision after being on that job for 8 hours. Another quote said, it was important for me to show stability. Verge has done a good job up until this point. I really need to dig deeper in terms of what we look like to make sure we protect that global brand. This is an interesting point now LSU is at because, like I had just opened the segment with, you had somebody that had that mark of consistency that's been here around the program for a long time. Shit, he's played for the Tigers. But then you throw this in the mix, and it just seems like another distraction, maybe another worry, if you will. I was hoping LSU would get some of this cleaned up so a guy like Lane Kiffin didn't have ammunition to shoot down the offer and the opportunity. G, what's your reaction to this athletic director hire? And do you think there's a worry with all these new things popping up this morning that maybe they reverse the decision? I don't see how you do it, but it's worth talking about.
People gonna always have something to say when you have a guy that African American of a premier university like LSU. Regardless of if people want to admit it or not, when you see somebody like Verge Osbury who doesn't have the background of some of these ADs that they wanted them to go take a look at, people gonna try to find any little thing to say something negative about the hiring. I'm very familiar with the Title IX incident that happened when Les Miles was there. Being crucified by some of these people because he didn't report something. Should he have been held accountable? Yeah. But look, he dealt with that. He was suspended for a year, if I'm not mistaken. That was what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. How long was it?
It was in 2020. Yeah, it was over
Yeah,
5
five,
years
six
ago.
years ago. It's water under the bridge in my mind. I think Verge probably has learned from that. And look, sometimes when things like that happen, it's deeper than what you think. Verge could have been biting a bullet for somebody. He could have been the scapegoat. You just never know what exactly happened, and so I wouldn't hold that against him. And I don't care if he was white, black, green, Asian. It don't matter. I'm not holding that against him going forward as the new athletic director of LSU. He's been involved with this university as a player and in some type of administrative role since 1991. I've talked to Verge on a number of occasions over the years. I think he's a really really good guy. I've had interactions with his sons and how he interacts with his son's friends that went to U High and kids in the community and people that was in leadership roles and personnel department at LSU. And a lot of people have a great relationship with Osbury, with the
Mhm.
Verge Osbury. A new Iberian native. And who understands the LSU brand and the state of Louisiana more than your own? And I think that's why it's a good hire. I think Verge has relationships. You know, a lot of people been talking about how he's not going to have to go look high and dry when you talk about people that's going to donate and give money to the school. When you talk about NIL and things like that, he's not going to have to go try to rub elbows and network. He has his network. He has the relationship. So I think you, 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 you ahead of the game when you talk about that in retrospect. I even like the high with Wade Roos. I think I'm pronouncing his last name right.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you know, from the Tribe Parish, right? There, graduated from South Lafourche, then went on to Nicholls State, and I know a lot of people giving him a lot of flack because they feel like he doesn't have the background or some of the other presidents that they was looking at. But what he did at McNeese, you know, in improving their enrollment, I think he improved their enrollment by 14%. You know, he has a business background. He started a company, an investment company, some years ago. And people that I know that really knows him really closely had nothing but high praises from about him, and they think he's going to be great in this leadership role at LSU. And this goes back to when we start talking about, you know, picking a group of five head coach and bringing them to a Power Five school like a LSU or Auburn or whatever, right? People try to tarnish your reputation just because you're coming from a school like McNeese, who only had an enrollment of I think the 8,000 people or something like that. Now you come into a school like LSU where it's triple times that. That doesn't mean he can't do his job at a high level. And so I think people need to understand it's about leadership qualities, right? It's about being structured and organized, and it's about relationships and do you know how to delegate? Do you know how to put things in place? And he's shown that at McNeese, regardless if it's a small school or not. And I think he up for the challenge, and I think he's going to do a good job as the president of LSU.
And there's another comment that I think sticks out too when you're listening to his press conference, his introductory speech. He was talking about the fact that he wants to still focus on McNeese for how to help them in that transitional phase. He's not starting as LSU's president, but he's going to make sure the place that he leaves is in a good spot. It says a lot about the person. Some people, like let's say you're quitting a job, some people, hey, 2 weeks, that 14th day, it's over with. This guy, he's in a position where he wants to leave good roots, good foundation. Like he wants to still succeed. He's not just out of sight, out of mind. So I mean, yeah, there's a loyalty aspect in there. To Verge's point, it's interesting to me that it comes out now, right? Because I mean, he's been with the program. He's with them. He's been a big, I would say, decision making piece. But you've seen him leaning against the field goal post, coming out, talking to Brad before he goes in the locker room. He had a role in this department. So I feel like if you were comfortable enough giving him that role, I personally don't see where the question marks and the gray area popped up all of a sudden because you had already given him the role. He already had been in this. He was the interim AD. I don't know the difference from making him interim to permanent, like why this just now started to be a question. Because, I feel
Yeah.
like if it was a question, it would have been brought up weeks ago. That's just my opinion on it, but I don't know.
And I'm gonna tell you something else that I was really fond of. Verge and the new president, you could tell they're on the same page as it pertains to the governor of Jeff Landry. One of the quotes that I really, really was excited to see and hear from President Roos, having Jeff Landry a part of the coaching search is not healthy.
No.
We got it from him. He's basically saying that Jeff Landry won't have any partake in the new hire for LSU. He's laying the ground rules. He's letting people know that look, we gonna take care of this. Jeff Landry won't be involved because I think he understands the backlash that LSU was getting having Jeff Landry come on these TV interviews and these press conferences and saying some of the things he was saying as if he was running the university, as if like everything was going through him, like he was the decision maker. And I'm glad he put that to bed. And I think him and Verge on the same page. And I think you will see some good leadership from these two guys in the near future at LSU.
Yep, and you need that, especially at this point, because this is a pivotal point you are in. The fork in the road. What step will you take? What direction? What path will you go down? If LSU picks the right one, you could be national champion. You could be a top program where all the recruits want to go, and you got the portal stuff figured out. If you make the wrong decision, now you kind of start to look like Auburn a little bit. We ain't trying to be like that. Another
And
thing.
I also think that the Lane Kiffins of the world, these top tier coaches that could possibly consider LSU to and come to be the next head coach, with the president and Verge coming out saying what they're saying, that might make them feel a little better coming to LSU to take the job. Because when all this was going on with Scott Woodward getting fired, Brian Kelly getting fired, Jeff Landry coming out saying some of the idiotic things he said, what I kept saying, man, if I'm a top tier head coach, I am running far away from Death Valley. I don't want to be no part of that circus. But now I think you're starting to see some stability, some alignment as they keep the word they keep using.
Mhm.
And I think they putting LSU in a position to be able to go get one of the best coaches in the country. But I'm still sticking to my guns. I think Frank Wilson is the person for the job if he could finish the season off the right way.
Yeah, I want to add this in context to Verge and why I think this was a smart decision from athletic directing standpoint. Talking about, how you were saying you don't really need to do all the networking and this and that. I think it's a little bit easier for somebody like Verge to come out, create a direction, get everybody on board, and show them the path because he's walked the walk, talked the talk, been in the weight room, been on the field, been in the locker room. Like when you have that level of experience, there's a level of trust that just naturally is earned. It's naturally going to just be there. And I'm not trying to say that, if you make a wrong decision, people aren't going to scrutinize you. It's just more so that bringing in a new guy, in my opinion, might have been more questionable than promoting Verge because of that level of continuity and consistency. And just like everybody talks about getting back to the purple and gold that you miss, I feel like this is the right step in the direction. If you want to get back to that point, this is the guy that you're going to hire.
Yeah, for
Now,
sure. And although I thought Scott Woodward got a raw deal and all the scrutiny that he got for giving Brian Kelly that kind of buyout in his contract, and they bringing up the contract he had with Jimbo having to buy him off for over 70 million. I still think Scott Woodward did a good job. I thought that he shouldn't have been fired. Having said all of that, Scott Woodward wasn't involved when you talk about recruiting. Scott Woodward wasn't involved when you start talking about NIL from a grand scheme of things. Scott Woodward didn't have a real relationship with the players. Verge Osbury does.
yep.
Verge Osbury has multiple players in that locker room that he can sit down and have a real in-depth conversation with. And I think people can't take that lightly. Anytime you have somebody in that kind of leadership role that could get the attention and have a real deep dive conversation with not only the players, but the parents and people that's involved with these kids. That is very important in today's society. And when you start talking about NIL transfer portal,
Yeah.
and Verge could speak their language, bro. And also, man, he has two kids that has a lot of relationship. One of them plays on the team. Jaden Osbury is at Notre Dame. Austin Osbury is at LSU.
True.
So that played a big part into Verge having all these relationships with a lot of these top tier athletes in the state because his kids were some premier athletes coming out of U High that was heavily recruited, playing 7-on-7. Verge was around and he was able to rub elbows and build a lot of relationships with these kids and their families.
Hmm.
And he has catapulted that into being athletic director. I'm not saying that should be the whole reason why he got the job. I'm just saying that plays a big role when you talking about being an AD.
Yep. And I said this point earlier on in the week. I want to double down and say it again to credit Verge. Being intelligent, being smart, having the best scheme, like having everything up here, that's good. But the ability to be able to get someone to buy in on that
Yep,
scheme, to be able
that's what
to
I'm saying.
teach somebody the intelligence that you have, and be able
Agreed.
to make a message very, very simple and have everybody be attentive and take in the message. That's the key. Because I mean, being smart's fine, but you have to pour into them. You have to get them to be smart like you, or at least see the game at a fractional standpoint of what you see it in. If you have that collective buy-in, and he puts that into whoever the head coach will be, I feel like you got a very good situation on your hands.
And to piggyback off of what you're saying, bro, I think that's why you see so much turnover in college football. Well, not only college football, college sports in general. Because a lot of these guys that are making these decisions, when you're talking about picking a head coach, they're looking at all the wrong things, bro. I'm not saying you shouldn't look at his track record, what he did at his previous school, his scheme, all his recruiting ability, all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the things that they're not taking into consideration is, does he have real relationships with the kids? Does he understand how to go in a room with rich people, middle class people, poor people, and still be able to command a room and still be able to speak their language?
Yep.
That matters so much in today's society, especially when you're talking about how mental health is so prevalent more than it's ever been before. So just because you might be the best X's and O's coaching, and you might have a bread and butter play on third down, that don't mean you can get this kid to understand and buy into your coaching.
Right.
And I think that people that's in these leadership roles have to start understanding that it has to be super important when you're picking a head coach of your football program. And not only football, but any sport in general.
I find this interesting too because like when we started this transfer portal change, like this transitional phase, everybody was worried about like it going away from relationships. And I'm kind of I'll open this to you. It feels like almost it's doubled down the importance of it because if you can manage your relationships, now you're not spending as much money. Now there's not as much turnaround in the portal. Now the kids understand, oh shit, I can wait here. I can be developed here. There is a plan for me here. Like now, if you're able to segue both of them, you're more dangerous than anybody that's got a blank check because a blank check is good. But if you can get through to the kid, still give him resources, but also show him you're going to develop him and have him reach his potential and then get more money down the road, that's the key. And I feel like whoever balances that going forward through these next 2-3 years, it ain't gonna be dangerous. That's the
And
next
that's
dynasty.
and that's what made Nick Saban so great. Everybody try to say he's a guru when it comes to defense and putting schemes together and game planning. But you know what made Nick Saban really the GOAT? It was because he understood how to touch and get into the minds of his players.
Yep.
He understood what got them going. He understood their whys. That's what made his teams run through a wall for him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made him arguably the best college coach of all time, bro. It wasn't just the X's and O's. We could find a million coaches that's good at X's and O's
Yep.
and that could go recruit, but it's about being able to tap into that inner self of your players and get them to believe in you and getting them to run through a wall for you. And I think that's something that a lot of these universities got to get back to. And I think Verge, when he picks this next head coach, that's one of the main qualities he's gonna be looking for.
I agree. Let's keep it on this Nick Saban topic. You just teed it up and hit the transition right off the team. All right. A lot of people are talking on Twitter about this, and I want to have like a disclaimer before we even start this conversation, G, about why. One, you need to take everything with a grain of salt. Two, message boards, they're not like they're not the like trusted source of okay, this is what's happening. G, we could type whatever we want on a message board. I can get on LSU's message board today and say Jeremiah Gray's being offered a $10 million deal to be LSU's head coach. Now, that'd be awesome. I'd be lit. I'd hope you make me an analyst. But just because it's on a message board, don't make it true. And people are just letting these rumors grow legs and run rampant. Today, you hear Nick Saban, Nick Saban. This is a prediction market right here on my screen. It's supposedly odds based off of public talking points, I guess, on who's going to be favored to be LSU's next head coach. Obviously, Lane Kiffin is number one. This morning, G, Nick Saban climbed up to 27%. Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin, they were tied. A lot of people running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Oh my God, Nick Saban's coming back to Baton Rouge. You saw some on a message board that is private jets in Baton Rouge. I'm obviously not believing it, but I'm gonna start like losing hope in the Nick Saban train because of this. And I could be prisoner in a moment, overblowing it, whatever the case may be. I think this was a calculated move. Maybe he's still negotiating live in front of everybody's face, but the birthday video, Miss Terry bringing the cake, he's in the recliner, covered up, laying down, watching Thursday night football or Monday night football, whatever the case may be. Bro, he looks comfortable. He looks good. He looks done. I just don't see why he would take this risk. I want to see how you're feeling about this because I know you got some hope in it, but like, do you think there's any seriousness behind this, or is this just public hope?
First of all, let me say this that I respect, a lot of these guys that's covering LSU football and reporting about if the coaching search and is Nick Saban, this Nick Saban thing is real and things of that nature. And I'm not trying to at all shit on their reporting and their sources or anything like that. But what I can tell you for goddamn sure is LSU has definitely had conversations with Nick Saban about being the next head coach. I know that 100% to be accurate. Now, will Nick Saban be the next head coach? That's a whole entire another thing. I can't answer that. I don't know what Nick and Miss Terry how they going about making this decision. But LSU has definitely reached out and had conversations with Nick Saban about being the next head coach. Um, I know his agent is very, very interested in him coming back to Baton Rouge. I know Nick came out and said he said it on game day that he's happy doing television and he wants to keep his agent as far away possible from Miss Terry, which is his wife. So who knows? Um, I think if it's Nick Saban or whoever it's going to be, it's gonna come. It's gonna come like a Beyonce album in the middle of the night. It's gonna come when we not even expecting it.
Yeah,
It's gonna come out of the blue. Nobody gonna be able to leak it. It's just gonna come like Nick Saban's the head coach,
drop of a
or,
hat.
or Lane Kiffin the head coach, or whoever it is. That's just how it's gonna be. I don't see nobody being able to be close to the situation to the point where they're gonna be able to say that I'm hearing that Nick Saban's gonna be the head coach. If it happens, it's gonna happen on the drop of a dime. I really
I
truly
agree.
believe that.
And I agree with your point on how they had to call. You do have to do your due diligence. I do
Yeah,
think LSU's
yeah,
interested. I think the
yeah.
question is going to be how interested is my guy, St. Nicholas? Because he's got a pretty damn good gig. I think he's making, like, I don't want to speak out of turn, but he's making around $12 million a year to do ESPN. They're obviously flying him on private jets. He gets to do all of the football, go to the traditions, go to the games, be on the campus, see the fans. He's getting a fraction of what he misses, I'm sure. I know it ain't the same. He probably still has that itch. Uh, I don't know though. It would be such a left field pull. I guess I gotta see it to believe it
The
type.
only and that's what I'll say to Tiger fans. The only good thing about not hiring Nick Saban is whoever you hire next, you're gonna have some longevity. If
Yep.
you hire Nick Saban, you had to know this was gonna only be a 3 year, maybe a 4 year window. You had to
Mhm.
know that, and then
Yeah.
you're gonna be right back in the same boat again, trying to find another head coach.
In the same amount of time at that. It would be
Yeah,
three coaches within three coaches within like 8 years, whatever the case may
yeah,
be.
and I know a lot of fans probably will say, well, look, if he could give us two national championships or even one in
Yeah.
that 3 to 4 year window, we'll take it. And look, I get it, I understand.
Hey man, gotta get the win, man. Winners win. I expect it. Let me talk about this real quick before we do our college football playoff reaction. Whitney's doubtful for Saturday. This doesn't surprise me. They said he hadn't practiced all week. I want to ask you what changes, though, because we've talked about guys like Devon Keys, Tylen Singleton. They're going to be able to answer the bell, get the reps, yada, yada, yada. But for the last few weeks without Whit, against Vandy, against A&M, now potentially against Alabama, I feel like you are at risk of getting a mismatch, like getting a huge, 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 huge ass whooping. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna say what it is. I feel like Ty Simpson is looking at this. This is a situation where now LSU's defense is continuously vulnerable. They got so much film on it. I think it exponentially gets worse as people have more game film on it. Now, can Blake Baker step up to the plate, throw a different look out, and stop it? Yes. I feel like that has to happen. What do you think changes?
When you say does anything changes what you that pertains to
How they substitute and without Whit Weeks attack the
oh
quarterback
yeah, I
and just
mean
try to scheme Ty Simpson because he's the most accurate quarterback in the SEC right now. 20
yeah.
touchdowns, one interception.
Um I think not having weeks is very, very pivotal to them being able to slow Bama's offense down. I didn't feel as strongly about it when they played Vanderbilt and even Ole Miss. But I do feel like that about Bama. And I feel like that because Kellen DeBoer does a lot of shifting. He does a lot of different variations of formations. They do a lot of things that you have to game plan for
Yep.
throughout the week. And Witt makes all the checks. So not having him on Saturday and you throwing somebody in like Tyler Singleton or Devon Keys who has some game time experience, but they don't have that experience that Witt has when he sees a certain formation and he knows he has to check out of it. It's like muscle memory. That could really hurt them on defense on Saturday. So I
Mhm.
think it's a big deal. I do think Devon Keys and Tyler Singleton are some solid players, but they're not with weeks, bro. And
Nope.
so Blake gonna have to be really creative. I know that he told Frank that he wanted some more realistic looks throughout the week to prepare for Bama. That might help. We'll see. But not having them on Saturday, man, I just think that that puts them at a real disadvantage. We talking about being lined up right and things of that nature for what he do to that defense.
That Blake Baker comment threw some people off on Twitter. What did you
Yeah,
take
I mean,
away from that?
it almost sounds like it's a shot at BK.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
because
I'm not
people are
saying it
thinking,
is. I'm not saying
right.
it is, but that's how people going to interpret it.
And because I'm just thinking a game like simulation, like, hold up, wait, what? We aren't doing that already? That's where
Right,
my mind had went.
right,
But
right.
thought that was interesting. Let's talk about the college football player reactions before we get out of here. We did our rankings, we did our prediction. It was pretty spot on. Top four is what we thought. However, I got some bones to pick with the committee. I think they need to put me on the damn table. G, I'm feeling like I could solve all your issues. Everybody would be 100% pleased. I wouldn't have one person pissed off. Come on, man. You know the drill. ACC is my first bone to pick. The highest ranked team out of the ACC is at number 14. Louisville is behind Virginia at 15. Then obviously Georgia Tech, Miami, yada, yada, yada. I'm not trying to act like the ACC is the biggest, toughest conference. And there's also a stipulation for these seeding. Last year, the top four seeds would be your top four conference champions. They all get a bye. This year, not the same. Top four seeds are going to be the top four: Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Bama. They would have the byes. The stipulation is the top five conference champions get an auto bid. It does not say where the bid is. I'm starting to kind of get the inclination that the ACC will get one team and one team only. Now, I'm not trying to say it's fair. I'm not trying to say it's not fair. I'm just simply making an observation. Another observation: 6 of the top 12 are SEC teams, G. 2 of them are, or excuse me, 3 of them are Big Ten teams: Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon. I find that a little bit interesting too, because we're sitting here wondering, like, man, is the SEC going to do the 4AQ with the Big Ten? And we were wondering, why do it? Because you might be in a spot where you will get more than 4. You don't need 4. Why put yourself in that spot? And we're seeing it play out right in front of us. Last note that I want to make here, and I'm going to give it to you. Oregon at number 9 is blasphemy. Straight up. Texas Tech and BYU above Oregon is blasphemy. Look, all right, cool. I understand Texas Tech will be a player. They will win the Big 12. They are one of the most surprising teams this year. I even preseason, when we were talking about sleepers to watch for the playoffs, I even put Texas Tech in there. However, I got really hypothetical. Josh Pate, shout out to him. Deal with FanDuel, one of the greatest sports books on the app, please. They come out with hypothetical odds, G. Right now, Oregon, Texas Tech, if they were to play in a playoff game, Oregon would be favored. And I agree. I just don't get how they're number 9 at this point. Threw me off bad. Threw me off that the ACC is getting slept on. And it kind of threw me off a little bit that the SEC got 6 seeds. So shout out. Those are my takeaways. G, what you think?
Yeah, the ACC, the schedule is horrible, bro. It's just not a good year for the conference. Uh, Virginia's number 1 with Georgia Tech's number 2.
I think Louisville is number 2.
Or yeah, I think Louisville and Georgia Tech might be tied or something
Yeah,
like that. But
yeah.
it's just not a good year for the conference, especially when you got your juggernaut Clemson is bad this year. So a win against them doesn't mean anything. That's why Virginia is at
14.
14, right?
Yep.
And that don't mean they're not gonna get in because if they win their conference, they're gonna be in. And look, this thing is a long way from over, bro. A lot of shaking and moving gonna happen before that final 12 get put off for the 12-team playoff.
Nope, 100%. This is the first one. So, I mean, you got a lot of change.
Yeah,
That's the,
a lot of these people gonna lose. Some of these people ain't that's in the 12 ain't gonna be in the playoff.
yeah. I'll even throw one more comment out talking about the hypothetical odds. They did one for the SEC title game if it were to be Bama and A&M, and they had Bama favored. I find that interesting. I'd pick A&M, but hey, that could be a little bit of a trap that they're throwing out there for you. All right. About to hop out of here, G. Somebody's throwing your name in the hat for recruiting coordinator, man. Get ready. You about to have a new position, bro. Come on. Come on.
Hey,
This would be your number one job right here. Look at this comment. Will DJ Lagway be LSU's quarterback? If it's up to G. Yeah. Come on, man.
yeah, he would
That's your
definitely
first
be my
job.
DJ Lagway would definitely be the number one person I'm going for.
Let's go.
But like again, whoever the new head coach gonna be, who they bring on, with their staff, all that's gonna come into play because they're gonna want to bring their guys in. So you just don't know.
It'll be a limbo period. Hopefully, we get some news on it soon, but I wouldn't hold your breath on it. Friday, we'll be back on. We'll do a preview LSU, Alabama, our top 3 picks for the week. Hopefully, I get my revenge because, damn, it's getting rough. Gee, we did pick the same 3 games, so our record won't change much, but I need to catch up. I'm not satisfied being 2 places behind, 2 picks behind, whatever. We're going to get back at it. See you Friday at 1 o'clock. Appreciate your time, G. Y'all hit that thumbs up. We are out of here.